my God, we lost Howard Rosner.
No, I'm here. I'm here. I just lost my camera for some
We
reason.
lost your camera. That's
No,
all
you
right.
look good. You look better.
You look good. Yeah. You lose weight?
There he is.
Yeah, it looks good on you.
Welcome, everybody, to Crossing the Streams. This is so exciting. We're back. We're back on Crossing the
Fantastic.
Streams. Episode 90. Episode 90. I'm
Nice.
just changing the audience settings real quick. So anyone wants to share it, they can. Anyway, so all good. Welcome all of our Jewish friends who are now full in the tummy, have broken the fast. Happy New Year. Hope you had an easy fast and an excellent Yom Kippur. So we're here. We're ready to go. We took last week off. I can't remember why. Why did we take last week off? Oh yeah, because of the storms. I hope everyone's doing okay in Florida. I sent some money, I know, to a friend of mine. He collected like $10,000. Was
And I
getting
haven't heard from him
supplies.
since. Yeah.
But so it's all
I'm very
good.
very excited that my company has done some donations and matches, and also delivered like 3 truckloads of product energy drinks for those who are unfamiliar to the National Guard in Florida that is helping out. So good
Good
stuff.
for you, Howard. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, that is awesome, Howard.
I didn't deliver it. I'm not rated to drive one of those semis. I'm barely rated to drive my Grand Cherokee.
Well, I think you could do it. You could do it. So we got to think about Florida. That's not what I meant to click. Think about Ukraine still fighting the good fight. Everyone's
Fighting the great fight.
I
right
know.
now.
They're like kicking ass.
Maybe too great of a fight, but
Yeah.
that's a different conversation.
Yeah.
We gotta go.
Wait, I lost my. Oh, and then we got the drinking game.
Yeah.
Courtesy of Jerry and Carmen, super fans. So what do we got? We got if someone on the show drinks, drink, technical issue, drink. We forget to tell you what platform the show is on. And we've got tons of binge watching suggestions for you. We want you to be able to find it. Anyway, drink. If we put your name on the screen, drink. If we forget the name, if Mick's on the screen, drink. Any of those things, just drink. Hey, Lee and Jerry, what's going on? And then, of course, we have Ron in there as well. All right, let's do the theme song real quick. Ron, kick us off.
Here's a story of some lonely fellows who spend way too much time watching the TV. All of them have jobs and friends. Not really. Just between you and me.
Mick.
They made a live show out of their hobby. Every TV watcher's TV watching dream. Jeff, Ron, Sal, and Bob, and there's Howard. They call it Crossing the Streams.
Howard.
And then one day they went live on all the platforms. You could hear the people laugh and shout and scream. Still can't find another word that rhymes with platform. But man, we crossed the streams.
We crossed the
We
streams.
crossed the streams.
We crossed
We
the
crossed
streams.
the streams.
That's the way.
We do it here. We cross the streams.
Fred did it in the chat as well.
Who's in the chat? Oh,
Fred
Fred.
did
What's up,
Carol.
Fred? Yay, friend of the show, Fred Carroll. Hey, okay. Mick, I usually let the guests go first, but you've been here so many times. Mix it up. You get to do the second course. So
Sweet.
I know sometimes we talk about just random stuff. It's called Violent Night, I believe. David Harbinger is Santa Claus. The trailer, I think, released today. You got to watch it. This is how I describe it. Tony Berardo, friend of the show, had called it something else. But when I watched it, it struck me as this was the pitch. All right, we're going to do Die Hard, but Santa. And like it's brilliant. That's what happens. Like, right, this house is under siege and Santa's coming to deliver the toys. And Santa's a badass and he's going to save this family. So that's the trailer. It looks awesome.
Did Tony
Did you see
recommend
Michelle
it?
Pfeiffer's in it too?
She is?
Yeah,
Oh
she
my
was the old woman on the couch.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my God. But Harbinger as Santa did something that I've been doing for years, which is I don't know if you guys ever get like one of those, you get the candy cane and you suck the end of the candy cane until it becomes like this sharp like shiv.
Yeah.
And in the preview, he does that and then jabs it right through the guy's face. Just like you knew it was possible. Ah, it's beautiful. Beautiful.
I think you celebrate Christmas different than I do. Chinese food and candy cane shivs. Okay.
I know. Last year we had to forego Chinese because we couldn't even get our Chinese order.
That's like the old riddle, Howard, of the guy who's dead at the base of a puddle with a window above. Remember that old riddle?
Oh God, yes. Yeah.
I mean, right? You can get shivved with a candy cane. They just won't know it's a candy cane.
Right. That's true. One of the greatest pieces, I know Ron saw it as well. One of the greatest pieces of unintentional comedy has been circulating quite a bit, and to veer slightly into politics, although this is not politics at all. If you have not seen the commercial for the Michigan gubernatorial race for the Republican candidate Tudor Dixon, wasn't done by her team. It was done by one county Republican party, but her team tweeted it out. It is the funniest thing I have seen on television in ages. It's the worst hired actors you've ever seen in roles they absolutely should not be playing. The writing is terrible. The delivery of the bad lines is even worse. And the fourth wall break when the one guy turns to the camera and goes, "Graham died alone," is the fun. I cannot stop saying that line. My wife asks me stuff all the time. She's like, could you grab whatever? And I'm like, no. And she's like, why? I'm like, because Graham died alone. It's just constant. It is so please go look for it. It's all over Twitter and TikTok and everything. Just go find that commercial. No comment on the politics of it, but it doesn't even matter the politics of it because nobody from either side should have approved that commercial.
I was so glad you actually put that out on social media, Howard, because I had been tweeting that for a couple hours right before you tweeted that, or you Facebooked it, and I just would say I didn't think it was real. Like I thought it was just satire. I thought they were making fun of people.
It seriously looked like a cross between SNL and Reno 911, and Duck Dynasty. Yeah. Like it was just terrible.
It's 100% real and it's gold. So yeah, I'm right there with Howard. Go take a look at it. It's the best 3 minutes you're gonna have.
It's or head on over to Ron's Twitter. I'm sure he retweeted it.
Yeah. I joined TikTok last week finally.
Did you follow?
Yeah, I'm not gonna post. Yeah, I did follow you. I follow you. I'm looking at, I'd say 98% of what I'm following is a couple of close friends, dogs, and cooking videos. There's a great account. He's on Instagram and TikTok, Chef Reactions. He's really funny. He's a clearly Jewish guy, a chef from New York who just watches people's cooking TikToks and like is totally sarcastic about them. He's, they'll be like, okay, doesn't that look great? He's like, no. He's like, shit, to be honest with you. He's like, go ahead. Go ahead. They're like, okay, we're going to take the vegetables and cut them now. He's like, yeah, go ahead. Cut them on the same wood cutting board. You just had the raw chicken on. No problem. Go for it. And it's just all what it is. It's a really good follow. I recommend.
The TikTok, the only thing, since you're new, just be careful. The algorithm on TikTok is sharp as a tack, meaning you spend 3 minutes looking at women in bikinis. That's all you get, buddy. So you can't go, I don't understand why these things are here if someone's looking over your shoulder, because that thing's going to know you better than you know.
I was just reading an article somewhere with somebody talking about all the things online, and they referred to, they were talking about, the article was talking about, how in this world, like when you start dating and stuff, you look at, like, especially with online dating, you have all these sources to try and get a read on somebody in advance. And they were saying the worst one of all is LinkedIn, because they referred to it as a tattletale, because with LinkedIn it tells you who's viewed you. They're like, stupid tattletale LinkedIn, let me let me know I was stalking her. So it's very funny.
That's funny. Yeah. LinkedIn is, you can't do anything private on LinkedIn.
Nope.
So, all right. Well, we got a great show for you. We're here to fill your stocking full of. We just like everything else, we're skipping Thanksgiving, we're skipping Halloween, we're going right to the Christmas references. So we got a great amount of shows for you to binge. This is episode 90. So that means at the end of this episode, there'll be 90 hours of Crossing the Streams on our YouTube channel. Link in the description, or search Classic Conversations, Jeff Dwoskin on YouTube. You can find it all. 90 hours of streaming. Last week, episode 89.
Gold, Jerry. Gold.
It's gold.
Gold. Last week, we talked about The Champion, Moonfall, The X-Files, and Confess Fletch. All amazing, waiting for you.
Yeah.
Loved it. And then today we're going to talk about Cobra Kai, which we talked about in the past, but I think a few seasons have passed since. We're going to talk about the Munsters reboot and Reboot, an actual show called Reboot, and Facing Nolan, which is sports. No.
I'm anxious to hear that one because I've been wanting to watch that.
All right, well, let's kick off with it then. Let's kick off with
Sweet.
Facing Nolan, which ironically, the poster is him not facing us. Okay, let's take it away.
I think that was supposed to be that way. I think that was the irony of that photo. Nice job, boys. This is actually a movie I caught, yes, on my original method of catching movies, which is Delta Airlines. Thank you, Delta. It served it up to me in their new flicks genre on my flight out to Dallas. And there was just enough time to watch this thing. And I will tell you, being a child of the 70s and 80s, and even into the 90s, I was always fascinated by Nolan Ryan. To me, Nolan Ryan was always the ultimate competitor. And I know this is probably a review that Bob should be doing, or even Sal, because they tend to be the sports folks, and I tend to be the World War II foreign film enthusiast. But
You're forgetting me.
Well, certainly, but your sport seems to be centered on NASCAR and well, I guess NASCAR. But anyway, listen, Nolan Ryan, I have always found fascinating, and one of the things I always enjoyed when I was a kid watching about Nolan Ryan is he had this allure to him, and it wasn't just because of his fastball. It was this nastiness to him. This ultimate competitor being able to do whatever is necessary to win games for himself and his teammates, combined with the fact that he was a wild pitcher, pitching before radar guns. And they estimated that his original pitches when he was in his 20s were up to 107, 108 miles an hour. And he was hitting people with these pitches. So I always thought it was just really cool. Every time Nolan Ryan took the mound, what's going to happen? I have no idea what's going to happen. And that's kind of where the story begins as they take you through the history of Nolan Ryan and the context of this film being many of the best hitters in the game talking about what it's like to face this guy. And I thought that was a really interesting way that they approached the telling of the story. He came from a very small town in West Texas. Nobody had ever heard of this guy. He was not one of these high-ranking recruits. He was drafted by the Mets in the 12th round of the 1965 Major League Baseball draft, which, if you know baseball, that's essentially you're taking a flyer. If you're picking somebody up in the 12th round, you're really expecting, it might be like a complete flash possibility. Otherwise, you kind of don't care. That's how deep into the draft this guy was picked. He had a history of wildness, of anger, of being one of these uncoachable kids that just had one of these magic arms that people didn't really know what to do with, but they figured somewhere, somehow, someone was going to get hold of him and work with him in a way that could turn that arm into something that's usable. He only had one pitch, which was his fastball. And people know that in modern baseball, and especially in today's game, you got to have 3 pitches, usually 4 or 5 pitches.
To be a starter, yeah.
To be a starter, you got to have 3 pitches. And that actually brings up a good point, Howard, because when he first came up into baseball, he was a reliever. He only pitched the end of games, and they didn't realize his talent. So, but here's what's really interesting about Nolan Ryan is that when he was picked up by the Mets, he went. He had a 4.3 ERA, which is not that great. He went 6-9 in 1965 with the Marion Mets, which is part of the Appalachian League, which is like it's a 3rd level down minor league team for the Mets. But then he got promoted to Double-A and then to Single-A, where the Greenville Mets got hold of him, and he was put in with this amazing old school pitching coach who basically reset everything in his game, reset how he threw the ball, reset how he ended his pitches, reset how he was prepared to receive the ball after the ball was hit. And that year he went 17-2 with the 2.5 ERA and struck out 272 people in 183 innings, which is, more than a strikeout an inning. It's just a crazy stat. And that pretty much propelled him into the major leagues, where he, as I said, started with the Mets, ended up going to the Angels. And then when the Angels and him couldn't come to contract negotiations, when those didn't work out, he was able to move back to Texas, first with Houston and then ultimately with the Texas Rangers. But his career is really it's second to none in some of the most amazing stats. I would say there's never been another pitcher quite like Nolan Ryan. So check this out. Here's an example. The dude threw 7 no-hitters. Would you like to know what the most amount of no-hitters for second place all time?
3.
That's right. 3.
Wow.
This guy threw 7 in his career, including 2 in 1 year, which is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yep.
The next closest pitcher, Sandy Koufax, actually had 4. So all the rest of them, Cy Young, Larry Cochran, Bob Feller, Justin Verlander, all had 3. Justin Verlander still pitching. But like I said, he threw his first 2 no-hitters just in 1973 alone. And that is an amazing statistic. Here's another one. He threw 5,700 strikeouts in his career. Would you like to guess what the next best strikeout is?
It's got to be in 2000 something.
It was 4,800. But that's by Randy Johnson, who under normal circumstances, Randy Johnson would be the all-time absolute leader in strikeouts. But he would have had to have pitched 200 strikeouts a season for another 4 more years if he would even approach Nolan Ryan. And that just goes to show you how many strikeouts per year this guy had. It's not just that he threw amazing pitches. It's that people truly were afraid of him. They would step back. They would not have their normal strikes. They wouldn't get good at bats with Nolan Ryan, and they talk about this at length. He also led the league for career walks, which I think sounds like a bad stat, but it's actually a really good stat when you're a strikeout pitcher, because it means you're just a little bit wild. People don't know exactly what you're going to get for you, and that is a pretty amazing thing. He pitched until he was 46 years old, which is another amazing stat. He has thrown more innings than any other player in history, and it averaged, like I said, more than 200 strikeouts per season. So anyway, listen, he is an absolute juggernaut of a player. The fact that he pitched in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s is another absolute ridiculous thing. His career ended very suddenly when he was in his upper 40s with his elbow popping, and he walked off the literally just
I don't mean to laugh at that,
Yeah,
but like
yeah.
his career ended suddenly after 30 years.
Yeah. No, I mean, like it wasn't like this big grandiose of this is my final year, and and you get to do the Jeter tour where he goes to every stadium and waves his cap. He was early in the season. He threw a curveball, his elbow popped. He walked off the field and said, "That's it, I'm done," and that was the end of his career, and he went on from there. But I found this documentary a super interesting documentary because of the way that they filmed it in terms of how many people they interviewed to talk about what it was like facing this guy. I tried to use kind of some of the lessons of Nolan Ryan in some of the other contexts of either business or personal life or things, interpersonally, or things like just about the nature of sometimes it takes not being nice to be at the top of whatever it is you measure to be successful, particularly in business, I would say. And he talks a lot about that now that he does speeches all over the world. He talked about how nobody was his friend, that he would go up there with this attitude of once he's on the mound, you are his enemy, and he will do whatever it takes to win for himself and to win for his team. And I really respect that. It's funny now looking at him now because he's a grandfather, he's a father, he's the ultimate family man. He's gone back to living a very simple life on a ranch in Texas. So like none of these big things for big name pitchers like that were true about Nolan Ryan. He was very true to his upbringing, which is just that of being a very simple, hardworking guy who expected the absolute best for himself. I think you guys will enjoy the documentary. It's a really, really good one, and I think you should check it out.
Yeah, I had a good friend, Spencer Steele, who idolized Nolan Ryan, and Spencer studied every aspect of him. So a couple of things I remember, and I'm trying to find the video on YouTube or somewhere to send out. It's one of the greatest at bats of all time. It's Nolan Ryan pitching against a guy named Vance Law, who was one of the Law brothers that played for the Cubs. And it was a 3-pitch strikeout that was just like it was like, a 4-pitch strikeout that it was like 98, 100, 102 mile an hour fastball that just missed, and then a curveball that absolutely was like 78 miles an hour that started right at his head and broke over and absolutely froze him. My favorite baseball team, other than being a Detroiter, the 84 Tigers of all time, I was a huge fan for some reason. I think it was the uniforms of the rainbow uniforms of the 80 and 81 Houston Astros. Which that 80 team featured Nolan Ryan, J.R. Richard, who was a fireballer that threw ridiculously hard and passed away way too early as well. So I was a huge fan. Did it talk about the biggest mistake ever made in a baseball game? Robin Ventura, as a rookie for the Chicago White Sox, deciding to charge the mound.
So they talk
ass absolutely handed to him.
So they talk quite about it. In fact, Reggie Jackson is interviewed about that. Robin Ventura, the little known fact, the team, and Robin was it the White Sox at the time? Yeah.
He was a rookie.
There was a bounty that when Nolan threw at one of their players, if you got hit, you're charging the mound, and they all agreed, the whole team beforehand. And Reggie Jackson, I think it was Reggie, was talking about how Robin was the one that got hit, and he was the one that basically didn't want to go, but he was essentially he. If you watch the video closely, you can tell his heart's not in it. He doesn't want to go, but his team is absolutely expecting him to go. And as you said, Howard, he gets his face beaten in. One other thing I'll just say, and here's a little fun little side note. There's one of the most famous sports pictures in history is Nolan Ryan with his split face and bloody uniform, and he refused to come out of a game. His lip was cut completely through. You could see his teeth in between his lip, and he refused to come out of the game. And his uniform was completely red with blood. That uniform is the most sought after sports memorabilia item in the world.
Really?
That for uniform, that is. It's the most paid for
Wow.
and sought after uniform in history. So I thought that was a really interesting little side note.
Crazy.
That's nice.
Yeah,
what,
Rob.
what goes through Nolan's head when his elbow pops? I mean, what happens to him mentally after that? Is he
You got to watch the
relieved that
documentary.
Yeah, he talks about that, Jeff, in the documentary, because he was on 1-year contracts at that point. He was clearly every year was going to be the last year of his career. But he talks about that. It's you would think it would be devastating for him, but it wasn't. He's such a dude. It's so hard to explain it, but it when his arm popped, he just was like, "That's it, man. That's good career. I've enjoyed it, and go fuck you, people."
The other thing about Nolan. The other
Okay.
thing about Nolan was he was a freak athlete, which a lot of people didn't realize. And all of us being Detroiters, I'm a huge fan of Justin Verlander still to this day, even though he's in Houston now as well. And what's different about him, very, very similar to Nolan Ryan, is not only a great arm and unbelievable talent, but their athleticism at their lower body is what drives them. They had such fluid motions, even though they were so extreme in what they were doing, that they didn't have often the arm issues that take out a lot of guys because their lower bodies were so strong.
So Howard, they actually talked about, first off, his workout regimen was ridiculous. Like, he kept himself in amazing shape through his career. But I think it was either the Angels or the Astros, I can't remember which one. One of them got him into they put him in one of these green suits with all the sensors all over his body and had him throw for a couple hours to try and figure out how his throwing motion is so perfect, because he's considered to have the most perfect throwing motion in baseball history.
Yeah.
So they were trying to map it out so they could be duplicated. And I thought that was super interesting. The bottom line is you can't duplicate it. You're born with what you're born with.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's right.
Awesome.
I got strong lower body.
Good one. I'm going to have to watch that, Ron. That's definitely right up my alley.
Awesome.
All right. Convinced Rosner. All right, let's go to, I'm curious to hear about the Munsters
Munsters.
reboot.
All right. Well,
Take it away, Mick.
the new Rob Zombie film everybody should be excited for. Probably the only Rob Zombie film everybody should be excited for. I'm going to preface this for everybody. I like Rob Zombie's style. I think he's got good ideas and concept for movies. I think he has his own look and feel and everything, very Tarantino-ish, but he puts his own spin on it. With that being said, I've said often that the guy needs a writing partner. He can't write for anything. So most of his movies, his story just kind of it completely falls out for me. Not the case with the Munsters. I went in. I'm a big fan of the original series. I loved that show so much. It was near and dear to my heart. So when I saw the trailer for this,
Lily,
I kept my mouth shut, and I was like, but I told a couple of people, I was like, this looks horrible. This looks terrible. I'm not into it. I can't believe he's doing this, and he's making it a family film, which, of course, I don't mind that aspect because the Munsters was a family show. It's Rob Zombie making a family film, and your wife is playing Lily, and it seemed like everything was wrong here. I think he has a knack for this, honestly. Because this isn't even a reboot of the Munsters. This is a prequel to how Lily and Herman met.
Oh,
and so they take it all the way back to before, and it ends with them at 1313 Mockingbird Lane. So, their whole dating and courting and everything else in between. Lots of favorites show up. Igor, of course, we got his backstory, and Uncle Lester and everybody else. So it was very cool to watch this. It was a good story. It was fun. He definitely captured the campiness of what the Munsters was and the heart of it. And it felt really good. And again, I always want to like Sherry Moon Zombie in her movies, like, but she just always comes off the same in every single thing. Not so. She did a great job with this. I mean, she did a really good job as Lily Munster, and I got to give her credit. I went into this. A lot of people are trashing it, but I think that's just becoming the popular thing to do. I say watch this. I say it's a good movie, filled with a lot of fun, a lot of laughs. It's good for the family. It's a good introduction into the Munsters for kids and things like that. If you want to bring them into it, because I did. I watched this with my kids. They loved it. Then we started watching a TV series, and it's been a lot of fun.
Who played the Herman role?
I don't remember the actor's name, but he's been in a lot of Rob Zombie films, and that was another one that kind of worried me because when you see him, he's always playing like the foul mouth, like always has a handlebar mustache, slick back hair, plays like the slick character in the movies, in previous movies. But in this,
Daniel Phillips is his name.
Daniel Phillips, okay, yeah, he did a good job. I feel like everyone, Danny Roebuck played Grandpa Munster. Everybody, so like it was just I feel like everybody really got into it and was like, we're going to try and capture the spirit of what the Munsters is.
How was Elvira?
She was great. I mean, every time she shows up, she did such a fantastic job. She plays the realtor who's meeting with them to sell them a house on Mockingbird Lane, and it's a different house from 1313. But of course, they turn around, they see it, they fall in love with it, and that's what they go for. And it's a funny little bit because when they meet her, she's going to a Halloween party, so she's dressed like a witch. And they play it off pretty nicely.
So Rotten Tomatoes has a very different opinion than you do. 48% critic and 36% audience. Yeah. And I appreciate your point of view, and I know you watched it with a kid. Do you think your son? Do you think if you watched it solo, you'd have the same opinion?
I did watch it solo. I watched it before I watched it with my kids because when I'm reviewing a movie, I don't want to have that's a great point, Jeff. Thank you. Like when I'm reviewing a movie, I watch them solo so I don't have that outside point of view, and then I'll go back.
So Mick, I'm not a zombie guy, but I did see his remake of Halloween a million years ago. Yep. Would you say that is his kind of claim to fame at this point, at least as a director, or is there? What should I be watching if I'm interested in seeing a Rob Zombie film besides this one?
The remake of Halloween, I mean, it depends on your level of violence, because they're all like the Munsters. If you don't have a taste for violence, that's it. Right. But it really depends on that level of horror. Like I thought he did a good job with the first Halloween. Not great. It was all right. Just a little messy in a lot of parts, and the writing wasn't strong.
Yeah,
I would say his best movie to date is The Devil's Rejects, and that's because it's not a movie that relies heavily on story. It's just you're in it for the ride, and that's what it is. It's a very simple tone, and I think that's where his wheelhouse is.
Okay, that's good. Jorge Garcia from Lost is also in the movie. I just saw an interesting clip of just a Jorge Garcia fact. It was Brian Baumgartner, who played Kevin on The Office, saw a note that the original 3 potential choices for Kevin on The Office were himself, Jorge Garcia, and Eric Stonestreet from Modern Family. And he ended up being the first choice. The other 2 made out okay. They got lost in Modern Family. That worked well. Everybody made out on that deal.
Oh yeah.
All right. No. So you recommend this movie then?
Yeah, it's a fun Halloween visit. Is it the best movie I watched last week? No. Is it the worst? No. That would be Blonde.
Oh man. Okay. All right, I'll have to check it out because I have to say most of the people who I've seen just passively say anything about it. It hasn't been positive.
And that's funny because I read this too, but everyone I've talked to so far that's seen it has had something positive. And not that they're in love with it. I'm not pitching it here as like this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. It's just if you're a Munsters fan, it was fun. It was a fun movie to watch.
All right, awesome, cool, sounds good, my friend. Well, check it out. Let's check it
All
out,
right.
everybody. Real quick, let's say, let's say, wait, I wanted to say hi to Carmen. Carmen, what's up?
Carmen, nice to see you, Carmen.
Hey, Carmen. So, all right, let's go to our next one. And then this one it can be a group one because I think a lot of us have seen it. So, I wanted to talk about Cobra Kai. I think we did Cobra Kai earlier on. I'm almost positive at some point we
We
must
did.
have talked about
Can
Cobra
you put
Kai.
that picture back up real quick?
Yeah.
Because I just want to point out, I found this out today. I was today years old when I found this out. The guy who plays Terry Silver, the guy with the gray hair,
Mhm.
is a year younger than Ralph Macchio.
Huh.
Let that sink in.
That's interesting because he played way older than him in Karate Kid 3 as well.
Yeah.
So how, you guys have all seen Karate Kid, Cobra Kai. You guys have all seen Cobra Kai.
I haven't watched an episode.
Oh, you haven't watched it at all. But Mick, you've seen all 5
Oh yeah,
seasons?
I'm all caught up.
And then Ron, have you seen all 5 seasons?
Not all 5, but I've seen 3. I think it was.
Okay, so Cobra Kai is an extension of Karate Kid movies, right? So Karate Kid, obviously one of the greatest movies of all time. Daniel-san, Pat Morita, Mr. Miyagi taking on Cobra Kai, Johnny Lawrence, right? I mean, the greatest thing ever. The end of that movie with the kick is like one of the greatest end of sports movies ever, right?
Illegal.
Awesome. It's the Rocky for young kids, right? It's awesome. So then there's Karate Kid 2, which I don't think is great. And then there's Karate Kid 3, which I eventually rewatched recently because Cobra Kai season 4 and 5 pulls so heavily from it. I felt I needed to go back and watch Karate Kid 3 so I could understand and bring up to date my brain to the references. Karate Kid 3 in itself, which has somebody's feedback, and I can't. Terry has Terry Silver's character in it as the bad guy in Karate Kids 3 is sort of a maniacal bad guy. Danny LaRusso, Ralph Macchio is almost impossible to watch. He's such a it's so annoying in that movie. And it's not a great movie. It's just not a great movie. Now I have a friend who thinks it's the best of the 3. And then after this, they went to the next Karate Kid, and Hilary Swank joined Pat Morita as the next one. And then later it was rebooted with Will Smith's kid, who Will Smith actually serves as a producer or executive producer of Cobra Kai. So Cobra Kai takes place 30 years later, and you find Johnny Lawrence kind of down and out. Him losing the All Valley Karate kind of ruined his life. Daniel LaRusso, Ralph Macchio, he's living large. He's got car dealerships, giving out little bonsai trees to everyone who buys a car. He's living it up. And of course, their lives intersect again. Johnny Lawrence restarts Cobra Kai. You start to realize Daniel LaRusso has you start to have a different opinion of Ralph Macchio. Dan LaRusso is maybe he was an instigator of some of this stuff, because even all the way through season 5 now, he goes out of his way to just not let things go. And it's like a lot of things I think would be avoidable had he just let it go. But in his head, it's like Danny LaRusso is every person who's horrible when they read a social media feed and think everything is about them and about to ruin their lives. That's the Danny LaRusso character in real life in Cobra Kai. Okay. But from a nostalgia point of view, loved it. Do you agree? At least season 1, right?
Yes.
Huge nostalgia, right?
Yeah. Can I? And I just say, and I said this last time we reviewed this, I was really impressed with William. Is it Zabka or Zabka? I don't know how you pronounce it.
Billy Zabka.
William Zabka.
Yeah. His acting, like way better range in Cobra Kai than it ever was, obviously, in any of the Karate Kid films. So I was really pleased to see that. He's a good actor.
Or Hot Tub Time Machine, where he makes an appearance.
Hot Tub Time Machine, his wife in Hot Tub Time Machine plays his ex-wife in Cobra Kai, and mother to Robbie Keane, his estranged son. So in season 1 and season 2, season 2 ends where the Ralph starts Miyagi-Do karate back, and there's this whole now battling between the two dojos. My problem with Karate Kid, starting with that and kind of into 3 and 4, was the adults were fighting, but turning the kids into basic assassins. It wasn't even like bullying, like we're just pushing and, where it's just uncomfortable with itself. But I'm talking about, literal, how does someone not die? Like to the level of really discomfort, where I stopped watching season 4 for a long time. I couldn't take it anymore, to be honest. It was very disturbing to me, that part of it, because there's no nostalgia in that. There was bullying, yes, and this is a story about becoming your best self and finding a way to settle that, and that's the All Valley tournament. But at the end of season 2, it's an all out. It might as well have been one of those B movies from the 80s where everyone's getting their throat slashed and killed. It was no holds barred. It was difficult to watch. Okay, in my opinion.
It went bonkers for sure. This show just went off the rails for a long time ago, and then this season, I think, just continued that trend. But I think that's why it still works. I think that's why it could still go on, because it was not the premise from the first season into the second season. I watching it and following Johnny and his journey through this. I was like, okay, this isn't going to sustain with everything happening. You can't keep this up. How do you do it? And they found a way, but it just has to go off the rails. The nice part about season 5, I thought, was all the stuff that's going off the rails with Terry Silver and Kreese and everybody, and Ralph Macchio's character, LaRusso. I was focusing in on Johnny in this. He was the more subdued character, just trying to get his life together, and like all of the things he was doing. I was like, all right, I'd rather watch this right now. I like where Johnny's at, adding an element of drama to this. But yeah, and then again, it went off the rails by the end, where they're fighting with like samurai swords. And
now I'll say that the reason I brought up Karate Kid 3 earlier, and I didn't love it, is I thought Karate Kid 3 has translated best to the material that they're using in Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Terry Silver, while near jokey level villain in Karate Kid 3, is amazing. The level of evilness and acting that he's bringing to Cobra Kai in season 4 and season 5, I think is stellar, like way better. I think Martin Kove still comes off a little cartoony with his over the top, badassness. And I thought season 5, which is one of the reasons I wanted to kind of talk about the show again, is it brought me back. I think season 5 was the best season of this entire show. Okay. And yes, the final episode is the equivalent of everything I just said with the battling, but it's adults. And I can handle adults beating the living shit out of each other personally a lot more than 18-year-old kids battling each other under the control of their cult senseis. And I'm talking about both sides of that. And so, but it was badass adult kicking. Yes, completely over the top. Yes, they all should be dead from these fightings. But it was so great. The final episode of season 5. Anyway, it kind of brought me all the way back. They downplayed Martin Kove's character a lot in season 5. He had kind of a cheesy subplot in the final.
Talk about cartoonish, though. And I don't care if this ruins it, because it doesn't really. He walked through a door and escaped prison. That was like you had everybody else fighting to the death, and you're right. I loved what they did this season. They made it about the adults again and pulling it together. I love the fact that you got the 3 bad guys that Daniel fought in 1, 2, and 3 teaming up to go after Terry Silva and his group. And I love that they made Johnny, kind of a badass.
Right. They brought back Robin Lively, who is his girlfriend from 3. They brought back Sean Kanan from from the Mike Barnes, the badass of karate from Karate Kid 3. They barely used him though. They could have used him more. And it's funny because in the finale he gets knocked out right away and then comes back like the last second. It was kind of silly. They should have used him much more, but they did not. But Thomas Ian Griffin, who plays Terry Silver, deserves a gold medal, I think, for making Cobra Kai season 4 and 5 kind of a return to form and making this an interesting show to watch. I mean, the karate and the fighting, it's all well choreographed. And I think somebody said it to me. It was like, it's kind of like watching a cartoon come to life. And and I thought that was an interesting way to kind of phrase it and put it. But I think if you gave up at some point, it's worth it to kind of get through it. I think it's fun. They brought back the fun, and I think they got finally a really good villain. But I got to tell you, in season 5, Ralph Macchio is probably the big, I don't say loser, but I mean like his character takes the biggest hit, I think, in this, because you realize, man, this guy's needs a therapist. He needs to sit down with someone. He needs to really kind of, because like you said, Mick, you got Johnny Lawrence's character really taking control of his life and owning it and really evolving. There's a great arc there. And Ralph Macchio's character is he just can't let anything sit. Everything he's got to, and it's crazy. I do want to say that one of the greatest characters is Courtney Hengler, I don't know how to say her last name, but Amanda LaRusso, who plays Ralph Macchio's wife. She's great. She's so great in this. And all the kids are great too. And it's an interesting thing because there's so many characters, but I feel like they do a good job balancing the ones, the top tier ones, and you get just enough of the next tier. But you get enough of their stories and they weave them in.
Jeff, anyway. have you listened to the Ralph Macchio interviews about the original idea of doing this and kind of the flip between the characters? Ralph's character and Billy's character, that they were willing to kind of swap one guy being the good guy and one guy being the bad guy, and they were okay with that. Like that was part of the.
I know, but that's good, and in the sense that that's what makes the show interesting. Right. And I think if it wasn't that way. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of bring it up because
I just bring it up just because I thought it was cool of Ralph to be like, it's so easy to be the hero and for you to just say, you know what, it's my time to be the dick and Billy can be the hero now. Like I think that's cool. That speaks to Ralph being a cool dude.
It is. And did you know that Robin Lively is Blake Lively's sister?
Right. I did not know that.
Yeah.
I did not know that either.
There you go. Ralph, just in the vein of Ralph Macchio being a good guy and being a good sport, the beating he took at the Rob Lowe roast on Comedy Central was great. And he took, I think it was wax on, wax off is also what he does at work at the car wash on La Brea. It's one of the better lines.
All right, Howard.
Yeah.
Let's talk Reboot.
Yeah. So Reboot is a show that kind of snuck up on me. Just was I've lacked patience to watch new stuff lately, but Reboot had people that I really loved, so I gave it a shot. It is a comedy on Hulu. It's created by Stephen Levitan. If that name's familiar, he's one of the co-creators of Modern Family. So certainly, I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty good genetics for a show to get a start. So. The gist of the show is a woman who's kind of a film or TV and film writer and creator, pitches Hulu on doing a reboot of a famous old sitcom, standard TV sitcom called Step Right Up, which was really popular years ago, but doing it in kind of a more alternative, artsy way. But she wants to do it with the original cast, which is interesting. So the original cast is Keegan-Michael Key, who's great. The pride of Livonia, Michigan. For us Michiganders, Judy Greer. Johnny Knoxville, and a young man who was the kid on the show, who's a teenager now. I can't remember his name, or in his early 20s or something like that, who's really good. So in the first episode, they all gather. There's obviously intricacies from when they were on the show years ago. Keegan had walked off the show because he wanted to be a bigger actor. Judy Greer and Keegan's character had an affair that caused issues. She has now married a Duke of Norway or Iceland or something, and but just got divorced. Johnny Knoxville was a stand-up comic who goes back and forth between comedy and alcoholism. The kid is just an idiot. It's all great. So they get them all together. They're just about ready to start doing run-throughs for the first episode, and she gets a call to quickly come to somewhere. And it comes out that the original creator of the show and showrunner, they never cleared him of his rights for the show. And he now wants in and wants to run the show. And then, of course, it comes out that it's her father, who's Paul Reiser, who's great in this, as always. And they have issues. It also comes out that he created the show as kind of a way of telling their family's story, because he left her and her mother and family very similarly to kind of what happened in the show. So that's the basics for the show. I really enjoy it. It's a great they have a writer's room where he brings in writers that Paul Reiser brings in writers that he's worked with, which are all these old time sitcom writers and vaudevillian types. And then her writers are all these alternative, under every spectrum of various groups that are represented amongst her writers, and the others are all old white people, and so that causes some tension, which leads to some really good jokes. It's an interesting show. It's funny. I think that the acting's really good. What I love about it is it's not a ha quick hit live audience sitcom, although that's what it's meant to be playing. But a lot of the jokes in the show hit as if it were an old live audience sitcom. Paul Reiser, a lot of good one-liners. The writer's room, very good one-liners, but more modern jokes with the same flair of an old school one-liner. So it's 5 episodes in. It's on Hulu. They release new episodes on Tuesdays. I really, really enjoy it. I think it's got a good pacing to the comedy, and the cast is great. Really good. Johnny Knoxville is probably as good as anything I've seen him in, other than, of course, Jackass. I love Judy Greer. I've always loved Judy Greer in everything she's done. She's always the second fiddle. This is a better role for her. Keegan is great as always, and Paul Reiser is great as always. So I really enjoy it, and I highly recommend picking it up, checking it out. It's an easy, quick watch. The episode, you could fly through all 5 episodes, no time. I recommend the show. Jeff, I know you watched it as well.
I love this show. I had to go and look at the credits to make sure that was really Johnny Knoxville, because that's how good he was. I couldn't believe Johnny. I'd only seen him in Jackass and stuff like that. I'm like, does this guy just look like Johnny Knoxville? And because this is really, I'm telling you, this is the kind of show you actually have to watch, because that's how funny this show is. You have to pay attention. I will say, Howard, I binged it because I just couldn't stop watching it. And then I went back to watch it with my wife, Robin, and I said, I'm going to rewatch the first episode. If you like it, you just keep watching and we'll catch up. And so rewatching the first episode, there's a lot of clues that they're father-daughter. If you're watching in hindsight, right? It's there if you were able to, but it is if you go back and look. But Keegan-Michael Key is great. Like you said, they're all really great. It's such a great showcase. It's from one of the co-creators of Modern Family.
Yeah, Stephen Levitan. There's a lot of great Hollywood inside jokes too. TV and movie making inside jokes. They repeated one of the jokes from the Kaminsky Method, which is it might have been the newest episode you may not have seen, but it's this the old waiter at the Palm type restaurant that was in Kaminsky Method that used to bring them their drinks super slow. There's a callback to that on this. It's just a good joke. The pacing, Johnny Knoxville he's great. He's really smooth, which I was surprised. Like his timing is really good comically or comedically, I should say. So it's really good. I recommend it as well.
Yeah, 100%. You got this has the full Howard Dwoskin. We agree on this. We don't agree on She-Hulk, but we completely agree on Reboot on Hulu.
I was going to tell you, Ron, that you'll be happy to know that with your cousin, my wife and I have now gotten through the first 3 seasons. We just started 4th of Better Call Saul, which we had never watched an episode of. And I know it might be controversial to say this, but after getting that deep into it now, obviously it wouldn't exist outside of Breaking Bad, but I really believe that it might be a better show on an average show basis. The top Breaking Bad episodes are unbeatable. They're off the chart good. Best episodes amongst all the episodes of television ever. But on an average episode basis, Better Call Saul may be a better show because it lacks, like watching Breaking Bad again when they were running the marathons, like a lot of the conversations in a kitchen or a living room with Skylar and Marie, they're just, it's grating and it doesn't drive the plot line. It adds background great, but it doesn't drive the plot line. Better Call Saul, there's no scene in any episode that doesn't in some way, shape, or form move the plot line forward. Everything is an absolute push forward in the storyline. Everything.
Well, so that's one of the things, as I've gone back and watched Game of Thrones as an example. I have now watched the entire Game of Thrones run, I think at least 3 or 4 times at this point. One of the things that I find interesting about that franchise, which echoes what you just said, is that literally every word, every piece of script in Game of Thrones, whether you realize it when you first hear it or not, everything that is said has meaning and has impact on where they're going with this. And when you rewatch these shows, you actually go to listen for, oh yeah, he did say something stupid about a flower or something, and then you realize that was really important. You needed to know that. Better Call Saul is the same way. I heard people talking. Better Call Saul is probably top 3, I would say, all time in terms of top spinoff series in television history.
Yeah, it has to be.
I know people talk about Frasier, but
the Jeffersons
and the whole family tree that comes from All in the Family. Right. So after match, but it's right up there.
Joey.
2 Broke Girls.
Awesome.
Oh wait, no.
That was actually pretty good. The 2 Broke Girls is not a spinoff of 2 Girls, 1 Cup. No, Mick, thanks for joining us on episode 90.
You mind if I plug?
Yeah, please plug and say goodnight.
Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. is the Scene Snobs 3-year anniversary special. Thank you. We're just doing a hangout. I'm going to put the StreamYard link on our Discord, and anybody can come in if they want to.
Be there, be snobby.
Be there and be snobby. We always appreciate the support. And then Friday, we have our brand new show that's coming out. It's a Friday morning 3-hour drive show. So it's going to be our radio show that we're going forward with, and it's only going to be Fridays for right now, and see how it goes. So come check us out on Friday morning if you're bored at work.
Where's that available?
You can watch it on YouTube right now, but we are going to work it out to try and get it on radio.com.
Nice.
Roz, say goodnight.
Good night, everybody. Have a good week.
And I
Ron, say goodnight.
Good night, boys and girls. I'm back on Delta Airlines next week and the week after, so I'll let you know what's on the screen from there.
Check them out
Thanks,
at
guys.
an airport
All
near you.
right. All right. And check me out at Classic Conversations. I thank you guys for coming back week after week. We greatly appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. And that has been another episode of Crossing the Streams. Join us every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, live on Facebook and YouTube. Follow The Jeff DeWaskin Show on YouTube to be alerted every time we go live with your hosts, Jeff DeWaskin, Ron Lippett, Howard Rosner, Bob Phillips, Sal D'Amelio. We're all in the socials. Follow us, listen to our podcasts, Classic Conversations, and The Sal and Bob Show. Check them all out, and we'll see you next week and every week when we cross more streams right here. See you then.